the reason why I say that is that if you're watching this video and you're very frustrated that what you're doing isn't working, of course it's much simpler if you're just doing nothing, and then doing something is going to make a difference.
Ask my accountant about that.
What's up guys, and welcome to the new studio. It's Mike from Job Ready English, helping international students get hired in the UK. For the first video in our new studio, I wanted to do something a little bit special. Namely, I wanted to put myself in your shoes and to explain in depth how I would go about finding my first graduate job based upon all the experience and knowledge that I've built up from coaching and helping students since 2013. So buckle up, this one's going to be a long video, but it's definitely going to be worth it. All the resources that I'm going to be talking about are going to be in the description below, so you can go and check those out as we go along. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and drop us a comment down below and let us know what's the biggest problem that you're having as a graduate finding a job in the UK. Now, even though I know that our catchphrase, our tagline is helping international students in the UK, I know that many people that watch this channel aren't even in the UK, or they will be British students who are also looking for help. And what I wanted to say is thank you for all of you. So first of all, there's going to be 10 parts to this video. Part number 1, I want to set out the conditions. Now, in order for you to find a graduate job, you need to understand that it's going to be a long process. And everything that we're going to be talking about really applies to students who are based in the UK, whether you are a home student or an international student. So for those of you who aren't based in the UK, this isn't something that's going to work for you. A lot of the inquiries that we receive are from people who want to get jobs in the UK and they're based in another country. And honestly, it's very difficult. So please, just bear that in mind as you watch this video. Part 2, what will your timeline be? So on average, we work with clients day in, day out. I see clients for an hour, for a couple of hours, and we see clients who will stick with us throughout the whole process. And if you want to know how to do that, then you can find a link in the description below called Coach Me Into a Job. And what we found is that the average time based across of COVID-19 has been about 5 months. And that's with a client who is getting our help week in, week out to do everything as part of the job application process and start at a good graduate job at a multinational company for an average salary of £30,000 a year. So what does that mean for you? Be prepared for it to be a marathon. As a rule of thumb, I tend to say you should allow 6 months. It could be sooner, and that would be great. But if you know the timeline, then you know roughly how long it's going to take you to find a job. And most importantly, you know that you probably need to get started sooner rather than later. So now I'm going to take you through 8 steps that you will need to take, that I would take if I was finding a graduate job, and why I know these are the right steps to take. Step number 1, get your CV done. Now, I'm not going to talk to you about how to do a CV. There's going to be a link up above where I did a 40+ minute video and I took you through exactly how we do our client CVs, how you can do that too, and also you can download a free template in the description below. But I want to give you some things to think about. And I think that this is really important because very often people will tell you what to do, but not why you should do it or how you should do it. So the big thing for me about a CV is just remember your CV is probably not going to be read by a person until the 2nd or 3rd part of the application process. The first thing that's going to look at your CV is called an application tracking system. Basically, this is an algorithm that searches for keywords. What does this mean for you? Number 1, it's really not that important what your CV looks like. Number 2, you should tailor your CV to each job description, and you can use a great tool called JobScan, which we really love. There you can get a couple scans for free each month, so you can see how your CV matches up with your job description. Now, just to let you know, I always tend to find JobScan asks for an 80% match rate or above. I don't find that that's necessary. 50% and above is pretty good. So I would stick with that. Otherwise, you'll end up spending way too much time making minor tweaks, and that's going to make it much more difficult as you tailor your CV. Now, often I get asked, should I tailor each CV to the company that I'm applying to? And the answer is no. But it's really quite useful to have a couple of different CVs tailored to the skills and experience in the job description for each role. And if you find that the job descriptions aren't very useful, I find that the government prospects website is really very good, which is prospects.ac.uk. It's completely free and has a massive library of job roles, job descriptions, skills, day-to-day case studies. It is an excellent website, a great free resource, and I highly recommend it. Getting your CV done and thinking about those keywords actually makes a lot of other things much easier. The reason why we don't want to have too sophisticated a design on a CV is because, first of all, when the algorithm uses optical character recognition, or OCR, when they try and read the characters from the page, sometimes if it's formatted or designed in a particular way, the algorithm can't actually read what is said on your CV. Next thing is that it saves a lot of time, because for me, a nice looking CV is not really that important, and I've seen candidates spend a hell of a lot of time making it look good and not really concentrating on what it says, and most importantly, why it's relevant. As a length, you're looking for 2 pages maximum, and probably a page for investment banking, and so on and so forth. Step 2, company selection. So now that we've got our CV done, and again, if you need a template and instructions, grab that down in the description below. What we want to do here is we want to do company selection. So what do I mean by this? Very often I see candidates applying at random, and I can certainly remember doing this when I had just graduated, which I think it was a long time ago now, was in 2008, 2009, and it was right in the middle of the credit crunch. And I can remember sitting there on Indeed and Total Jobs and Monster and just applying for every single job that I could find. And what I found was no one ever really got back to me. And I also got really frustrated with the entire process. So something to kind of let you in on is, personally, I don't think LinkedIn or Indeed one-click apply is particularly useful. Because if it's easy for you to apply, it's easy for everybody else. And if it's easy for everybody else, then it's going to be difficult for you. So in doing company selection, this is something that we used to do with my clients at a different company, and it's something that I still do today. First of all, it is important to think about what industries are really growing and prospering in the economy and which ones are not doing so well. Sometimes people will approach me and say they're trying to get a job in a particular niche industry, like for example, art curation, library, fashion design, and so on and so forth. And they'll say, well, no one ever gets back to me, I don't know who to apply to. And it just may be the case that you're applying in an industry where there's a very small supply of jobs and a massive demand from students because there are so many people who have taken that course. As a business, Job Ready English tends to concentrate on what I call high growth, stable and consistent industries, which hasn't ever really changed since I've been coaching, namely professional services, financial services, banking, investment banking and technology. We do occasionally get involved with engineering and law, but we do find that technical roles can be a little bit more fiddly. And the reason being is that we are a service-driven industry, and most specifically the UK is a financial services driven industry. Now I'm sure that there are going to be people out there saying, well, I don't want to do finance and I don't want to do stuff with numbers. Ultimately, these companies have a really wide variety of roles, and you don't have to work in finance. You don't have to know your numbers, and even if you're not particularly good at it, it's probably because you were traumatized by something akin to calculus or A-level maths, and it's really not that difficult. But you have to understand that the companies that you choose are really the ones that should have the greatest number of opportunities. We tend to target the Times Top 100 companies, and certainly if I was looking to work at a large company, I would want to make a hit list. And this actually comes from really good book. The 2-Hour Job Search by Steve Dalton. It's really quite an excellent read. There are some things that I don't feel particularly relevant in the UK. For example, when he talks about networking and the way that things work over in the United States. But in here, he talks about putting together a list of 50 companies that you can then start applying for. Now you may think to yourself, well, why would I do a list of 50 companies? Because most people can think of 10, even 20 companies that they want to work for. But by thinking about 50 companies, you're really going to stretch yourself and probably have to go beyond your comfort zone. Now you might be tempted to skip this process, and actually down in the description below, I've got my free 49-page ebook about how to get hired in the UK, which is for international students and also works for home students as well. And what I'd say is putting the planning in place now is going to save you a lot of time in the future, because generally when people apply randomly, it doesn't tend to work out very well. It's like putting a blindfold on in a pub, being spun around and around and just trying to throw as many darts as possible to hit the dartboard. It could happen, but the probability is that it's not going to, because you're not throwing in the right direction. So that's something that you want to do. And if you're looking for another book, I would say probably there aren't that many good career books, if I'm honest. A lot of them delve over into self-help and mindset, which is all well and good, which I enjoy. But in terms of really actionable and practical advice, there really is no better book than What Colour Is Your Parachute by Richard Bowles. This has been in print since 1970, which gives you an idea of just how useful the content is, because it's still being published in 2021. It's a book that I actually got in 2018. I read through it and I absolutely loved it, because it's got lots of great lessons. You don't have to read the whole book, whether you're thinking of changing careers or looking for your strongest traits or just trying to get some ideas about how to navigate the job hunt. This is a great book to have. Step 3, online tests. Now, many applicants, what they'll do is that they will find a job, apply for a job, and maybe they get through the initial screening stage. What happens next is that you're invited to do a psychometric or an online test, and most candidates are not prepared or really badly prepared. Online tests are a completely winnable game, because it's really just about the practice and doing the reps. You don't have to be smart to pass online tests. You just have to know what type of questions you're going to get asked and have done enough repetition for enough different types of tests that you feel comfortable in solving problems in a time-limited way. Personally, I would strongly recommend using free tests, just because generally they're designed in a way to get you to buy products, and they're probably not a realistic difficulty level. I've had a lot of conversations with different candidates and they'll say, oh, I did prepare, I took lots of free tests, and I just think that they're not like the real tests. Bearing in mind you want your practice to be as realistic as possible. For us personally, with our clients, we use Job Test Prep, and if you want £10 off your first order, check it out in the description below under products that we use, and you'll get £10 off of your first order with the code JOBREADY. I also really like Graduates First. I like the fact that they cover game-based assessments and just the general layout of the platform. I do tend to find that a lot of the newer online test providers will say that they have 6,000 different tests, but actually all they're doing is they're taking a couple of hundred questions and they're just switching the order of the questions and saying that they're different tests. That's quite a common complaint that I've heard. Now, of course, you might say, well, how many tests do I need to practice and what mark do I need to get? Ultimately, I think the simple aim of doing a test a day is really quite useful, which maybe is about 30 minutes. You're aiming to consistently get 80% on the tests, and you want to research into the type of tests you can expect in your industry. For us and for our clients, unless they're applying for legal, then they'll generally just concentrate on numerical, logical, and situational judgment tests, and be practicing those regularly on a daily basis until they're starting to get close to 80%, maybe 6s and 7s rather than 3s and 4s, and then we'll say, cool, I think now is a good time for you to start applying. This brings us to step 4. Now you would think that I would talk to you about starting to do your applications, but actually something that we always do with our clients is we refine their personal introduction. You'll find an in-depth video about that up here, which talks about how to answer Tell Me About Yourself, and also has a free link for you to download a template in how that you can introduce yourself. Now, why is this so important? Because it's the first step at improving your English, being better at interviews, and also just generally getting used to recording yourself and speaking in front of the camera if you've never done that. This is really something you want to take into strong consideration, and we actually spend quite a lot of time refining our clients' personal introductions before we get to step 5, which of course is applications and cover letters. So some things to think about with this. First of all, with applications, you want to be consistent. Now this means setting a schedule, because there's going to be a lot of competition for your time. I tend to find candidates will go one of 2 ways. Either they'll just do bugger all and then they'll panic and do a lot at the end, or they'll do too much at the start, burn themselves out, and then they just can't bear looking at a job application. You want to think about an idea that has been repurposed and repopularized by James Clear in his book Atomic Habits, and think about the 2-minute rule. And the basic premise of this idea is, what's the smallest amount that you could do on a regular basis and feel okay with that? Could just be 1 job application a week, and that's fine. Because what we want to concentrate on, which is very counterintuitive or goes against the normal grade of thinking, is you actually want to apply for less companies but have a higher quality application. Again, you could be one of those people, and you probably have been, I certainly have, of sitting there and fooling ourselves because I've applied for 100 jobs, then I'm bound to hear back from somebody. But then my experience tells me that that doesn't actually happen. I just don't hear from anyone, because each of those one-click apply jobs has had 50 to 100 applicants, and the only way that anyone was ever going to read my CV would be if I was one of the very first people to apply for that job. So when filling in application forms, you might come across long form answers and cover letters. This is actually something we spend a lot of time working with our clients, so we'll make sure that we always edit cover letters, edit long form answers. But the best advice for you, if you're thinking about how to do a cover letter or how to make it better, firstly, don't do a generic cover letter that you send to every company where you just change the name and you change the role. They're completely useless, and they're really just a waste of time. You'd be better off sending no cover letter at all, in all honesty. And if you want to learn how to do that, then you can either download a cover letter cheat sheet in the description below, or try out my free Skillshare course called Cover Letters to Get Interviews, and I'm going to teach you exactly how to write a fantastic cover letter with templates and worksheets, all in under 25 minutes. The last thing for you to think about with applications is all the time that you're applying and working through those companies that you selected in step 2, you always want to be generating a pipeline of new vacancies. And you can do that quite simply by typing in the type of role that you want, like finance graduate jobs London, then using Google Alerts, clicking on the jobs function that comes up in Google, setting a Google alert and having that emailed to your phone every day, every other day, every week. And this enables you to always have a regular pipeline of opportunities that you're keeping your eye on, instead of just panicking, finding 20 different roles and trying to apply to all of them in one weekend. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. The most important reason for that is that the newer the job, the more likely you are to get it, because the less candidates have applied for that job. Always think to yourself, you don't want to wait for the deadline. An employer wants to fill those roles as soon as possible because they have things that need to be done And because those things aren't being done, money isn't being made. So really, if an employer gets some great candidates in the first week, they're not going to wait another 2 months for the deadline. They're just going to close the applications. Or even worse, they'll keep the job open, but you're never going to hear anything back from them. Step 6, we want to get prepared for interviews. Now, of course, we've got the Pass the Interview series, which I think now has over 30 different videos where we teach you how to pass the interviews for world famous companies. But you'll notice the same, any of you who have watched those videos will notice the same things coming up over and over again. You're always going to be asked why this company, why this role. You're probably going to be asked to introduce yourself, and then the rest are most likely to be competency questions. So find yourself a most common list of competency questions. I would suggest less than 20 questions is fine, and then think about the answers that you would give for those questions, and more specifically the stories or examples that you will tell, because those stories or examples is something that you're going to repeat over and over again and just modify for different questions. What you don't want to do when preparing for an interview is sit there and try to prepare for the 78 most likely questions, because you'll end up spending most of your time writing scripts when really most of your time should be spent speaking, recording yourself, reviewing what you said, and then repeating that material. That's really most important. One final thing that I'll say about interviews, particularly pointedly for international students, is that if you're watching this and you know that your English isn't good enough, or you really struggle to speak with native speakers, then that's really something you want to start working on straight away. Whether that be volunteering, using meetups, joining Toastmasters, joining the Debate Society, joining somewhere where you're getting the opportunity to interact with native English speakers and speak English. There's no point waiting for an interview and then taking a crash course in business English. It doesn't work like that. Fluency really comes about by small chunks repeated over time, not by a large chunk of information consumed all at once. And the same thing with preparing for lots of different questions. If you prepare for stories rather than questions, you'll find yourself to be more agile and more flexible in order to respond to what's being asked. And if you want an in-depth video course for free about how to pass the interview, check out my 2-hour course on Skillshare, which you can see in the description below. Step 7 is really the final stage. I'm not going to include partner interview in this because I kind of just want to categorize interviews all together. But for assessment centers, this is generally the first time that you're actually going to be competing with other candidates in a group discussion. You might do a written exercise, case study, role play, presentation, prepare some work to bring there, and so on and so forth, right? So how can you really prepare for assessment centers if you can't see people? It's unlikely you can get together in a group to discuss some material. First of all, I find that personally the most effective way to do this is by writing up business reports for case studies and then presenting them in front of the camera. So you can go and get a case study that we have broken down for you. If you click down below in the store, you'll see the natural nougat case study, which I believe is a really typical case study for a multinational company. It's really very useful in understanding the process and how to write a business report and then present that. But I guess in terms of broad brushstrokes, what I'm really talking about is you should be taking the time to practice case studies. And if you can, if you're at university, go and talk to your career services. Ask them that you want them to put on a group discussion. Ask them if a company can come in to put that on, because there's really nothing quite as valuable as actually doing it. It's one thing to read about tennis. It's quite another thing to play it. Reading is never going to be able to transmit the feeling of the whole process as you're moving through that. Bearing in mind with assessment centres, slow and steady wins the race, and what I tend to find is the best prepared and the coolest candidate is the one that's going to perform the best. And finally, step 8, you'd think, well, I'm done now, what else do I need to do? Is your ability to review, adjust and repeat all of those 6 or 7 steps. And the reason why I say that is that if you're watching this video and you're very frustrated that what you're doing isn't working, or simply doing more of it is probably not going to be that effective. Of course, it's much simpler if you're just doing nothing and then doing something is going to make a difference. But if you find that your applications are being accepted, then think, am I applying for the right jobs, the right companies, the right industry? Am I leaving it too late? Am I just using one-click apply? Am I making sure that I put in quality applications? Or if you're failing online tests, the same thing. And this is really an opportunity for you to be rigorously honest with yourself. What a lot of our clients enjoy is that they have a coach. So basically the coach is going to tell them. It's like the difference between training at a sport yourself and training with a coach. You have somebody who can observe you and think outside of the box, outside of your own mind, and tell you about the things that you're doing right or wrong. And once you think you know what it is, make that adjustment and then try again. Guys, I hope that this video was super useful. There is a ton of free resources down in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more videos. Let us know what video you'd like us to do next. And I hope that you enjoyed the new studio. Good luck.